In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
Hold on a minute, let me add myself to the screen. That would be useful, wouldn't it? Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show live stream and podcast with a bit of a ragged start this morning. A little bit worse for wear. Dream Team session last night at 9 was great. The webinar was fascinating. Golden Visa isn't over, really. It's evolved, and I spoke to Jason Swan about that from Holborn Assets. Good to talk to him, and he's been a busy boy in recent times, helping people with the property-based Golden Visa, and now they've evolved their product. So it's not over the Golden Visa; it has evolved into something else, and obviously the property investment option is not still available. That will be on the Expats Portugal YouTube channel from Sunday at around 6 o'clock, if I have anything to do with it. And let me just shrink myself a little bit on the screen until I'm joined by guest this morning, Savvy Cat Ana, at around 9 o'clock this morning. Then at 9:30, Bobby O'Reilly will be joining us. I will ask both what they think of the new Beatles tune. I'm sure Bobby will have a comment on that. I'm not sure about Savvy Cat Ana. I'm not sure if she's so young. She might not even know who the Beatles are, even though they did write a tune, allegedly, based on the road from Lisbon to Albufeira. And we'll come back to that quiz question because it seems only right to answer that. And I've got to get around to answering many more of the questions over at GMP VIP, learnaboutportugal.com. I will do that in due course. I just like sharing the questions, but it seems only fair and right that we answer a few of them as well. Yes, that €900 bottle of wine. Shocking, says Deagle. Good morning to you, Deagle. Good morning to you, João de Nord. To the Global Nobles, hello. And Laura P is in this morning. It's a Feel Good Friday, folks. A few people here to wish us a bon fin de semana, I think, today. Coach Turner, and of course, even though he's on holiday in Madeira, still providing us with solid service. Who doesn't like a solid service first thing in the morning? And T-Duck, of course. And who's telling the coach ahead of me reading out the God Squad tip of the day. Morning, coach, says T-Duck. My favorite exercise is the forklift. Are you in the fitness protection program as well, T-Duck? Saw a little meme about that as well. So thank you very much. And James is here as well. James, thank you very much. Going as Hey Carl, did you know Slug and James are friends? For this week, there'll be another one come Monday, and he'll be back in his Mindful Migration slot on Monday, of course. And I'm looking forward to hanging out with you this morning. And just looking at the correspondence that's coming in on 913-590-303. Thank you for staying in touch that way. And that opening meme, it might be a caption competition, that one, right? News of another beer festival. We're loving our beer festivals here in Portugal. And there's one just been announced for the Silver Coast. We don't know where the venue is just yet, but that was sent to me by Joe Mack, he of Wildflowers. Now, if I remove T-Duck's comment for just a moment, I don't know where to start this morning. There seems like there's a lot to squeeze in between now and 10 o'clock. But we'll have some fun hanging out. We've got the lies we tell our kids, which I think might produce a few red faces among the parents here. Yeah, guilty as charged. We've told our kids things like that or similar. For me, it's similar sort of themes rather than those specific ones there. And dad jokes, excellent top drawer dad jokes, recycled, of course, for your delight and pleasure. And yes, Bobby O'Reilly, he pretends he doesn't like him, but we know he does. So we'll save those for the end of the show. And Bobby O'Reilly, as we wish everybody a bon fin de semana. And of course, Bobby O'Reilly heading to my manor this weekend. Where it says on the screen 1 day to go. until the Discovery Weekend here in Sao Martinho de Porto. It starts tonight. There's a bit of a soft launch or a soft lift off, and who doesn't like this evening at Baia Cultural. I've also got a WhatsApp group. If you want blow by blow um, alerts and updates about where we are, if you join this WhatsApp group that I'm about to put into the chat, you can find it actually on our website as well. If you go to the website and to Discovery Weekends, and if you click on San Martino de Porto, which of course is this Discovery Weekend starting tonight, really, but it's in earnest tomorrow. It's where we will be having a nice brunch in the morning and a brunchy, lunchy sort of thing. Details on the website, and then we'll be filming at 3. Do join us for that. Then we'll be going to Samar, which is one of our early meetup venues. There's a cocktail bar across the street for people who would rather go drinking straight away than having some dinner. So they want to get messy real early. And then I suspect we'll move back towards the Storytellers Palace late into the evening. They have the Gatsby bar is open until 2 a.m. And I think there will still be some party animals in there at that time. You know, that time when the staff want to go to sleep and close the place, and there are a few people, is it possible to get one more drink, or can we get a bottle of wine to take away? Then a nice a walk on Sunday morning to clear our heads, blow away the cobwebs, and a brunchy, lunchy thing again as we say a goodbye to some of the people who've come for the weekend, but not those who are staying for Annabelja's immersion weekend, which is on the Monday. So lots to do. Great fun to be had here in San Martino de Porto this weekend, starting tonight at the Baia Cultural. If you're watching and you want to know where we are this evening, we are at Baia Cultural. But if you want to make a reservation there, I've got the number for doing so, which I'll circulate later today, probably in this group here that I'm putting the for this weekend. There's the WhatsApp chat there. So if you can't make it but would like to just keep vicariously involved with what's going on, you can join that group as well. Oh, announcements and updates. I thought it was a swim club group. Well, I would like to go swimming this weekend, as crazy as that might sound. Who else might? I need some encouragement. I don't want people just jeering and shouting from the warmth of their clothing or the hotel room. If someone else will go swimming with me, I will go swimming into the water here in San Martino de Porto. It's not in case you're wondering, if you've not been here before and you are coming this weekend, it's a safe bay to swim in. The water at the mouth of the bay, right out in the proper Atlantic, looks terrifying at the moment, as you might expect, with Storm Kieran doing. Is it a he or a her or a they? Let's go with they. That storm is doing its worst, isn't it? In the Atlantic and all over, it would appear, right from the UK down. And we're getting the tail end of that here in Portugal. So I'm sure Nuno of Winsurance Our Power, a lot of people use Nuno at Winsurance. I'm sure he's wondering what claims and concerns may be shared with him today. Anyway, let's go to, yes, James, I will have a swim if someone comes with me. Okay, Coach Turner was in at 7:49 this morning. Bom dia todos, tudo bem? Another day of walking yesterday, interrupted by coffee and beer. Best way to walk. Interrupted by coffee and beer, maybe a touch de mista, maybe a prato de dia as well. Only downside is a rather sore heel, which may temper my wanderings. The tempering of my wanderings, that's his biography, is it not? Or at least a chapter. What a beautiful turn of phrase. So yeah, you don't want to, better to turn the phrase than turn your ankle. Thank you, Coach T. God's squad tip of the day from you. While proteins, we started talking about proteins yesterday, didn't we? While they are the obvious building blocks for muscle, carbohydrates are fuel. So while too many will lead to an obvious conclusion, too few will give problems as well. So you need a few carbs, right, to power up with. And Coach Turner continues to say, do not forget that Robert Atkins, the Atkins diet, promoter of the famous zero carbs diet, died with clogged arteries. Is that right? Did the guy who invented jogging collapse and die whilst jogging? And did Robert Atkins die with clogged arteries? And did he die with clogged arteries because of his diet, or did he die because most people die with clogged arteries? Sorry to be a finicky on that, but sometimes it's worth having a second look at these things. But I'd certainly take your point. I'm not arguing with your general point here, Coach T, and I really appreciate what you're sharing. Your conclusion then this morning, based on what you're saying, is pick a broad range of plant-based foods and enjoy them. Absolutely. Bit of meat every now and then I do like, and so does my family. we had the most wonderful meal yesterday at the Infusions restaurant. Well, I was going to say the Infusions Cafe. It has something of a cafe vibe. I think it does call itself the Infusions Cafe, or others refer to it as that. It's in just outside of Obidos, really. It's in Obidos, but it's on the sort of periphery as you're going more into the residential area and away from the medieval area. We had a little saunter around. It was the eldest 12th birthday yesterday. We wanted to go to Obidos. We had a look. We went to Caldas, of course, as well, to the gaming. The gaming software emporium, of course. So he was delighted with that. And he wanted to go to Infusions because we'd celebrated Luisa's, Mrs. M's birthday there last December. And we went back there and we were not disappointed. And on this occasion, I had a chat with Bruno, the owner. A lovely chap, speaks French. He was talking with French clients. He speaks a bit of Italian. He speaks English. He speaks Portuguese, obviously. He's from Abranches, I found out. He and his brother are from Abranches. So I talked to him about Abranches. I talked to him about his business. And they've got rooms there. They've got an Airbnb type room suitable for a family for €70 a night. It's really good. Infusions, I heartily recommend it. He has pivoted with the changes, with the pandemic coming. They were principally rooms. Now they're principally dining, and very good food they serve too. I had some beef served in Grimbergen beer, cooked for 12 hours, I think. It was really good. Some great camarão, some great shrimp, really good kids' meals as well. Mac and cheese, chicken breast. Really, really enjoyed it. And the desserts. Oh, my goodness. Bailey's ice cream, chocolate fudge brownies, all that sort of thing. Really enjoyed our meal there. So thank you, Bruno, for looking after us, and thoroughly recommend. If you want to try something Portuguese when it comes to staying here, if you want to try Obidos itself and you want a nice place to stay, it's maybe a 5 or 10 minute walk into the medieval part of the town. I thoroughly recommend Infusions, and I'll make a link to that at some point from the website and from our GMP VIP resources, because it's going to go into GMP VIP as one of my special places to visit, one of my must visits. For what it's worth, a Munson must visit here in Portugal. So thank you very much, T-Duck, for your dad jokes as well this morning. And a Kurt Vonnegut deep thought, which I think we should do now. A society is only as healthy as its ideas are humane. Kurt Vonnegut, who in 2006 said he would sue Pall Mall cigarettes he smoked since he was 12 for false advertising. Why? Because I'm 83 years old. I'm going to need my bleep button for this. Let me just get to the right position. The lying on the package, they promised to kill me. Didn't manage to do that to Kurt Vonnegut, who said a society is only as healthy as its ideas are humane. Yes, let's go with those humane ideas. Let's create more than we destroy, shall we? Let's face it, we are a destructive. Being alive means you're destructive, right? That is a part of the dynamics, I think, of this existence here in which we find ourselves. However, why not seek to, if not to achieve balance, which is a very difficult thing to do, I think, at least aim to create more than we destroy at this moment in human history. We could have that, couldn't we, as a way forward? Loving those lies we tell our kids. I think I'm going to do those now and save those dad jokes for Bobby O'Reilly, just to see the look on his face, knowing that whilst he protests a little bit on screen, oh, you and your dad jokes, Munson, I know he's writing them down or making a mental note and trying them on his kids later on in the day. So we'll do the dad jokes later, and we'll do the lies we tell our kids in just a moment. And if you're looking for that sort of inspiration for grandkids as well, you can get 2 generations of value out of these. So before we do go to those, though, let me just relay this message. Morning, Thunder Duck and Deagle. My favorite exercise is best kept under wraps. Oh, saucy matron, bring the screens. Coach Turner is about to perform his favorite exercise. Bon dia. Oh, be back. Bon dia, Greg Gumpers from T-Duck then at 8:01. And Feliz Sexta-feira. Adoros. Yeah, there you go. Coach Turner's hoping to put the sex in Sexta-feira today. Tomorrow night, we set our clocks back 1 hour. Again, that didn't happen last week. I'd rather set my calendar back 10 years. Oh, I saw talking of the Beatles track, which I nearly did. I saw a really good cartoon. I think Clive Gardner from the Algarve. Thanks, Clive. Thank you for posting up the mini documentary about the new Beatles track and the link to the Beatles track over at GMP VIP, and all the other wonderful videos you shared with us about basically the history of the Beatles in Portugal. Thank you for that. And you shared another cartoon. I don't know if it was there or just on Facebook. It was one, people looking at a new Beatles single coming out. Just how far did we turn the clocks back? Well, 60 years in a way, really. It was a coinciding with the release of their first single in 1963. Now and Then coming out yesterday, on the 2nd of November, 2023, of course. What do you think of it? What do you make of it? For me, it's like it's definitely the Beatles, isn't it? You can hear Ringo's, and you can hear where Oasis got all their licks from, or many of them. You can hear George Harrison. All of the elements of the Beatles from a certain period are in that track. For me, it's like a Beatles groove, a sort of thing you might have in a Beatles film, or if they were making incidental music and the film producer said, we want it really Beatlesy, we need this recurring theme in the background, that would be that track. To me, it's not a song. I'm waiting for the chorus to come. I'm waiting for a killer chorus to come. And what I've got is a Beatles groove, a Beatles theme. Not knocking it. I'm just saying that's my how it occurs to me. It's a fascinating story, the whole thing, and I think it's right, isn't it, to get for those of you who've watched that 12-minute documentary about the making of the track. It really sets it in the right sort of context for the right enjoyment of the track. But it's been an interesting experiment. Too much is being made of this AI cobblers, though, isn't it? Oh, it's been made with AI. Well, it's clearly been made by some human beings as well. You can tell that in there. And what is it? Yesterday, the UK Premier and Elon Musk were having a chat. It looks like governments and corporations are talking about AI and robots, and they should have an off switch. They should definitely have an off switch. And I'm not talking about the robots. I'm talking about the politicians and the leaders of corporations. They should definitely have an off switch. Shut up with all your stupid sound bites about AI. But who am I to talk? Because there's my soundbite about AI. Of course, there, and a cheap joke to boot. Okay, lies we tell our kids then. Classic. The toy store is closed today. Now, presumably in Portugal, you've got more options to say that with so many public holidays. Sorry, kids, it's another public holiday here. It's our monthly public holiday, and the toy store is closed. The workers at the toy store do work very hard, and they need to take today off. If you pee in the pool, where I'm from, they say it turns purple. In some countries, it turns red. Sounds a bit Jaws and sharkish, that, doesn't it? And it certainly gives the game away. There was a much more terrifying thing to tell teenagers, I think. That if you pee in the pool, there's a certain kind of fish that picks up on the aroma of urine in the water and then will seek refuge in a particular part of your body. Men who are listening at the moment are just creasing up and folding over, realizing what I'm talking about there. There is a particular fish, is it in the Amazon, that does that, seeking refuge intimately with you. And chocolate milk comes from brown cows. I'll be trying that one today. I'm going to try that on my youngest to see if that gets past his brain. And he'll probably nod like, oh, God, here he goes again, just saying stuff to me. And then he'll think about it and he'll come back to me a half an hour or day later and said, chocolate milk doesn't come from brown cows, does it? I think that's what's going to happen with that. But I'm still going to try it. Bom dia a todos. Feliz quinta. Como está? Tudo bem? And you have something to think about. WhatsApp visual. Did I miss those? I liked your little bit of pleasure where you say, James, such small and simple things can bring so much joy and fun. I often say that to Mrs. M. Memories of Ireland, you sent us. And, okay. So that's a classic, but I think worth sharing whilst we were dealing with men's nether regions, as we seem to have gravitated towards. Men's nether regions have their own sense of gravity, don't they? As our older demographic will... Okay, last mention of men's genitals now, hopefully. It's only when a mosquito lands on, I'm going to say testicles here, to be polite about that in mixed companies this morning. But there's a lot of truth in this, isn't there? It's only when a mosquito lands on your testicles that you realize there is a way to solve problems without using violence. Thank you very much.
Stop it, you idiot!
Wrong jingle, but it kind of works, doesn't it? For those of you who'd wish I would shut up now. about such matters. Thank you, James, for that. And a little video. So it is from James now. I do like this. Thank you very much. I'm just loading it up now. The simple pleasures for the slug in Ericeira this morning. And we can join in with that as he sups his coffee from a little memento keepsake from his recent Irish break. Oh, keep calm, you heckin' idiot. There he goes, drinking his coffee. Oh, steady, steady, steady. Excellent. Thank you very much, James. I'm not sure if you could hear my commentary whilst that was on it. My mute button didn't seem to work automatically then. But thank you very much for sharing. Every home should have one of those mugs, as well as a... Oh, I've got GMP mugs to give away at the weekend this weekend. So those of you who've qualified for a Good Morning Portugal mug, those of you with a sense of entitlement as well, hit me up for a mug this weekend here in Sao Martinho de Porto too. Oh, a few interesting talking points. We'll have Ana Caramujo from Savvy Cat joining us. And what have we got here? Oh, yeah, she's responding to a few of these that I've sent her that we'll talk about. Yes, Anna, that is the case with the message that you've sent me there this morning. We'll be talking with Anna about a few of those talking points that I've put into the chat this morning. Let's get to a few more then, going back to the chat and a few more of your comments this morning before Anna joins us. What have we got here? Sorry, I've rather dominated the chat with all those talking points. A storm on Saturday called Domingos. Is that not? Yes, it is. It's also, I was thinking of a pizza. No, that's Domino's, isn't it? I was thinking it's a storm that comes right up to your door, the Domino's storm. So Storm Domingos. Okay, that's coming on Saturday, not Sunday, in Portugal. And Deagle responding to the news item where we found out that there is a 900 euro bottle of wine doing the rounds. Shocking! 10 euros in a supermarket is a top price I would pay, and 15 to 18 in a restaurant, slightly cheaper in a snack bar. That's the going rate, isn't it? Quite rightly, as you point out there, Deagle. But somebody's got to make a 900 euro bottle of wine. And I think it's interesting, on what basis do they charge that? It's value. There can be value, can't there, in anything, if you can understand and perceive what the value might be and if it's value to you. So perhaps they have got a good backstory that justifies that amount. If you've got that to shell out on a bottle of wine. Feast Day of St. Martin de Porto, is that how San Martinho de Porto got its name? Well, I would say it lends its name to San Martinho, the patron saint. Is San Martinho, I guess, I see more Sant'Antonio in San Martinho de Porto, strangely enough. But we will certainly be celebrating the feast day, the Magusto of Saint Martin, in these days in early November. And of course, a San Martinho summer is when we get warm weather in the first week or first couple of weeks of November as well. Doesn't look. I was hoping that might happen for our Discovery Weekend. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with the weather? The weather people don't seem to know very specifically. I mean, they've got a general idea, haven't they? But so often I hear people just complaining about how badly wrong they've got it. I don't even look anymore. Bon dia, console, except when I'm telling you about the weather here. I don't look at it for myself ever, I don't think. Bon dia, console. Okay, it's sunny in the Algarve. There you go. Thank you, Laura P, for being with us. Great to see you, Amy and Greg as well, the Global Nobles. Bon dia. And every time I think about you, Global Nobles, I'm thinking, now, when I had that last chat with Amy, is there something I'm meant to be doing? I think we need to talk again soon, Amy. Maybe we'll see you this weekend. I'm not sure. I'm not aware of any communications to say so, but it'd be lovely to see you in Sao Martinho de Porto, along with anyone else who's coming along to the Discovery Weekend. It was great to see you, certainly, at our Lisbon Discovery Weekend, the one that kicked things off. Bon dia, Ian from Digo, and bon dia from João de Nor, fellow Gumpers. Feliz sexta-feira. Thanks for that, John. And yeah, all the best with your travels. Pete is in as well this morning. I remember nearly 20 years ago, my ex-wife's law firm had lunch for 3 at Ramsay's, spent 48,000 on wine, and thought themselves thrifty as they threw the food in for free. Sometimes when you think lawyers perhaps get paid a little bit too much, and where do all those fees go? There it is, right there. Cheers for that, Pete. Oh, announcements and updates. I thought it was a swim club group. Yeah, there was a lot of talk about swimming. I know, already in the updates, but if it's striking a balance always, isn't it, with WhatsApp groups? It's like, well, what now? Oh, it's that person who overposts, just chatting again about something completely random and unrelated to what this group's meant to be about. You know who you are. And also, there is occasionally some very useful information in there. So, striking a balance with that. Bon dia a todos from Antonio, the legendary Big Tony, as Pete calls you there. How's it hanging this morning? You don't have to answer that. And Sarah, good morning to you. I don't have my bathing cap, or I'd swim with you. Yeah, right. Sarah Taylor. How about Dan? Does he fancy that bit of Iron Man action over the weekend, I wonder? And from Antonio, James, today is Sexta-feira, Friday, almost Saturday, Sábado. And your accents are your friends, Sábado. All's fine so far, says Antonio, with the way it's hanging. And James, with your to this day, James, your long names always confuse me in the chat. That's happening this morning. Forgetting what day it is. It looks like SBF will be much fitter, according to Coach Turner. I can see a big increase in the number of protein shakes since this. Who is SBF? I'm not up to speed with that. The top of the Serra de Estrela was closed due to bad weather and snowfall, but it's already open now. Thank you for that, for anyone who was thinking of going up to the Serra de Estrela. And you see, this is his long name. I think someone's talking to me every time I see this. Hey, Carl, did you know Slug and James are friends? That's just James's long name of the week. Glad you didn't say it was Segunda-feira. I would get really scared. Yeah, not Monday already. I'm not wishing the weekend away. Sunday is Domingo, so Domingos is plural of Sunday. There you go, Deagle, answering your question. And also a male name. That's good to know. Probably a name of a wine as well, isn't it? Oh, US clocks, back 1 hour. I forgot that not all of us have US clocks in Portugal. Of course, yes, dual time there. How many of you actually have a clock up on your wall in that James Bond sort of style, or New York, London, Paris, Munich clocks? Everybody talk about pop music. Who does that here? Who has a clock with their, would you call it native time, or time in the old place up on your wall? We visited the Alcobaça Monastery with Bob and Viv yesterday. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it an amazing story? Did you sit in the love chairs? I know where the love chairs are, near the library, that the grass around them can get quite boggy, which I imagine it would have done in recent weather, Sarah. But did you take your photographs, you couples? Did you sit like Pedro and Ines over there in Alcobaça? Isn't it a wonderful place? Was that a first for all four of you? I was wondering, T-Duck, I was imagining you wandering around all last week, always an hour early to everything. He is an early bird, it's true. But we're talking about the clocks going back in the United States, aren't we? A further complication with this whole clocks going backward and forward thing. Yeah, we did it last weekend, didn't we, in this part of Europe and in America. Is that all of America? It's got to be all of America, hasn't it? Doing it this weekend, so to speak. The only weather forecast I trust, talking about forecast, as James seems to be now, I say generously, is today's weather report. Yeah, open the curtains, open the window, look outside. There's your weather report right there. And it's all part of my devious plan. The long name. I just used -8 for my California time. Okay, rather than having a clock up on the wall, except for the 2 weeks of this stupid time change thing. Was it 2 weeks ago with the time? Oh, okay. Was it 1 week ago? Was it 2 weeks ago? Are we turning the clock back 2 weeks? I've confused myself now. I have a triple clock. It says London, New York, Paris. But I've set it to West Coast, Texas, and East Coast. So that's a triple clock. It's all in one clock. Pics sent to Carl. Excellent. Here we go. We're going to have a look at T-Duck's triple clock system, which you too could own. There's quite a lot of chronology going on in the picture I'm about to show you. I've got a couple of other pics I want to share with you as well. And we'll be talking to Savvy Cat Ana in just a moment after we've shared a few more pickies here this morning. So here's T-Duck's picture. I've also got a couple of reassuring crime pictures to share with you from Portugal. Not meaning to make light of crime in any way, but there is a certain kind of reassurance about what I'm about to show you. Look at this. This is the 3 clock system, London, New York, and Paris, and they have been repurposed. for different time zones in the United States, presumably in T-Duck's orifice there. Nice azulejo as well. Nice big calculator. Is that the Lisbon symbol I'm seeing there? And a beautiful clock based on a watch with that carved wooden background. I like that. I like that. Very good. I believe the time change in US is state by state. Is it really? Adding further confusion. Used to be, I think, Arizona didn't change their clocks. Oh, man. So confusing. And here we go with some reassuring crime pictures from Portugal. And this was on Twitter. And the first one I saw was this GNR picture. Now, whilst we're seeing, horrible crime pictures from around the world, here in Portugal, meanwhile, 5 defendants for theft of chestnuts. We have accused 3 men and 2 women for theft of chestnuts in Mogaduru. That's the GNR news. Strangely reassuring. I feel sorry, of course, for anyone who had their nuts stolen. And clearly, those 5 defendants will face the sword of justice and truth here in Portugal. Probably eventually. There's a bit of a backlog, I think, in the courts. And then further into Twitter, you're thinking, yeah, it's cocaine, isn't it? Or some sort of illegal drug right there. Or is it decriminalized rather than illegal here? 7 arrested for stealing 270 kilos of olives. We arrested 4 men and 3 women for the theft of olives in the municipality of Vidigueira. There. So the wheels of justice, or the wheels of policing, are turning, and the wheels of justice will turn soon enough for those culprits. And that's slightly reassuring Portuguese crime news, if you see what I mean. This I forgot to put back on the screen. The Faro Bridge to be completed by the end of 2024. There's clearly a little bit of work to do. I'm assuming that isn't the final bridge there. You might want to caption that. My caption would be Faro Mayor saying, I think we're going to have to make it a little bit sturdier, certainly if motor vehicles are going to be using. It looks, I mean, if I was on that, I'd be wanting to get across that as quickly as possible. It looks like quite the drop either side. Not the best picture. If you're the picture editor of The Resident, I don't know, maybe it's done on purpose to make people think that is the Faro Bridge. I don't know. What's your caption for that? And one more picture before we bring Savvy Cat Ana onto the screen. Mac and Alan present those titans from the music industry, or the music scene here on the Silver Coast. Mac and Alan, Richard Allen, of course, and Joe Mack. The Silver Coast Craft Beer Festival. I'm looking forward to this. I don't even know where it's going to be yet. DJ Stray Cat will be spinning a few tunes. There will be games. Oh, when I last spoke to Richard Allen, he was talking about starting a cricket team. I am well up for that. I think others are too. Frank's probably going to be involved in that. I would have thought Owen might come for that. Our friend John Cunningham. Local beers, hop scene, Malaika, Batang, Netus, and some mean sardine, Bordalos, and what's it, Cinco y Meio, the 5:30 beer. That's a really good name for a beer, isn't it? It's 5:30 somewhere. Salt Finesse will be cooking, Bev and Dan, the Boa Vista Pizza Company, and Rexpress Curry. I am looking forward to that already. Don't know. Oh, it's at Capalheira, of course. I didn't see that on the label there. So that's December the 1st and 2nd at Capalheira, at the usual venue for the gigs that Mac and Alan present there. So up at Capalheira, not too far from Obidos that I was talking about earlier on. So there you go. That's great news for the Silver Coast. Let's give her a nice big round of applause. And bring her onto the screen. It's Savvy Cat Ana, everybody. How are you, Anna?
Good morning, Carl. Rainy morning. I don't know how it is, but I think it's pretty raining on that end. No?
Well, it has been for sure. I had a really nice breezy walk with the dogs this morning. I'm looking out on the window. It's looking quite sunny, actually. It looks like it's clearing up for a moment, but very changeable at the moment. And we have had a lot of rain, you're right. And 18.4 degrees, the weather probe is telling me from the back passage at the moment. So, there has been a lot of rain. Where in the country are you at the moment, if you don't mind me
I'm in
asking?
Porto. I was supposed to go to Caldas yesterday, but it was such bad weather that we kind of gave up. And then we realized that it was going to be even worse on Sunday. So we figured, better not be making a 2.5-hour car trip in the middle of a storm.
So stay in the big city. How's Porto been coping with the weather?
Well, the park's closed. There was a bunch of trees falling over, and lots of rain, lots of wind, but I don't think we've been having any floods yet. I've
Right.
seen a video of Caldas, the main square, completely flooded. So I was thinking things were a lot worse there.
Crazy.
Um, but yeah, inside home it's great.
Yes, you're saying nice. I think that's the Portuguese approach, isn't it? Be like, yeah, stormy outside. We're not going anywhere. Let's stay indoors. And of course, there was a public holiday, so I imagine for All Saints, a lot of people stayed warm and dry, as it sounds like you've done.
Yep.
Yeah. So, how are things going at Savvy Cat Realty? You're, of course, the supremo of said company. What's going on? And we've got a few news headlines to look at, haven't we? From your sector.
Well, yes, it's pretty much what I was predicting already. So the government is already starting to question their initial decision about the NHR. So let's see how that goes.
What have you
Uh,
heard? Tell me what you've heard on that, because some people are hoping that the government are going to say, "Yeah, okay, it was a bit hasty. It is going to go. It was always going to go, but maybe we'll give people a little bit of an extension." What have you heard?
I'm hoping that's going to happen, but what I've heard was basically that they were considering a provisional program to kind of make the transition, but
Mhm.
I don't know what that program is going to be. And honestly, the backtrack on our government on creating programs is not the best. So, or at least creating them in due time.
Yes, right. Yeah, a lot of talk, a lot of you might say a lot of heat, but not much light, perhaps. But and they get there in the end, but no one knows where the end is.
Pretty
uh,
much.
right. Okay. So that's the NHR. What else? What other news do you have for us? An insight from your industry?
So apparently, Portugal was named the third best country for digital nomads in the.
Yes, yes,
So
that's
that's
been doing the
nice.
rounds. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And would you agree with that? And is that part of your business as well? I know you help people find homes, of course, and rentals. Are some of them digital nomads?
Yes, some of them are. We have a lot of clients that come from different countries and work online. So we technically work with a lot of digital nomads. I think the term digital nomads, it gives a lot of thought to people that are constantly moving around, but I would say that most of my clients, they come here to stay long term. They are not looking to jump again in a
Mm.
year or in 6 months or so. So
Yes.
I would say that's one of the main differences. And I would say definitely that Portugal, it's a very attractive place for digital nomads because of the main reasons that Portugal is attractive in the first place. That is safety, quality of life, food, healthcare, and the prices in comparison to other locations in Europe are still decent.
Yes.
Although I wouldn't say that about this one.
Mm.
But the internet service is also quite good and stable in general, so you can get fiber internet in most locations. So overall, I would say yes, Portugal can be a very good location for people that are digital nomads and work digitally on another country and want to be in Portugal.
Yeah, and just generally, you've given us the the reasons, the sizzle of the steak that is Portugal there, and the headlines or the benefits, the great benefits of being in this country. Your view then on recent news? It's been quite the time, hasn't it, with where public confidence or global confidence in Portugal might have been knocked a little bit. And we'll talk more specifically with Bobby about his residency through investment alive and well in Portugal. He'll address that when he joins us at 9:30. We do have to remember, don't we, with all of these headlines that are often distilled into a dramatic soundbite, that Portugal is still a cracking place to come. And when I say a cracking place, a British turn of phrase meaning a brilliant place to come and live. It's all relative, isn't it? And I don't think that's changed. Some of these T's and C's, if you like, have changed, and some of the the financial equation is under in question. People need to think twice about that, but that's what 20%. The other 80% of what's brilliant about Portugal remains brilliant.
Yes, that hasn't changed, but I think that the tax situation shouldn't be downplayed, and people do really need to look at it very seriously and understand if they can support the regular tax of Portugal before they come.
Yeah.
And if they do, then great. It can be a great choice to come to Portugal. But as you know, the Portugal's taxes are not exactly light.
No, they're not. There's a whole new world of pain and understanding to be grasped, I think, when you move to Portugal. It's no truer than in taxation. This idea that check your assumptions, learn how tax works in this country. It's very different, certainly, to my experience in the UK. And there are ways. If you do tax like a Portuguese person, it is almost like learning the language, isn't it? You're learning Portuguese as a language, and you're learning the nuances and approach of the Portuguese to tax as well. So you do need to get yourself a really good accountant and somebody to help you with that, and look at the ways to make your tax most efficient. So I had to pull up somebody up on the Expats Portugal webinar last night who said, "Yeah, so if I want to avoid tax," I said, "No, we don't talk about tax avoidance." And I think some of the other speakers on the panel said, "We're talking about efficiency and minimization here." That's a much better way of putting it. There are ways of doing that aren't immediately obvious in Portugal. You've got to, certainly like starting a company, there are better and worse ways of having a company here in Portugal. And you can't do it alone. You really cannot do it as a foreigner, can you, Anna? You do have to get professional help with this.
Even as a local, starting a company is not easy, and
Right.
it's
Yeah.
going to cost you a lot less if you get a good accountant and a good lawyer and a good consultant, and you avoid the initial mistakes that can cost you a lot of money. And trust me, I've made a lot of those.
You and me both. You and me both, Anna. And that's what we're saying here, isn't it? Others needn't go through that pain because there is a way through. It just isn't obvious. And that's how it is, isn't it, when you move to a new country? But then not only for us moving to new countries,
Yes, and from a business perspective, Portugal can still be extremely attractive.
well
You
said.
know, the downside of low Portuguese wages, it's a very low downside for Portuguese people, but it's a very positive side for people that are looking to start international branches in Portugal or factories and so on,
Yeah.
due to the high skill, low cost, relatively low cost labor. So
Yeah.
that's definitely an attractive point of Portugal. And Portugal may be one of the highest rated when it comes to that kind of thing, opening a new branch of a big company in Europe. Portugal is a very, very strong contendant.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Excellent stuff. Okay, let's go back to a few of the comments before we look specifically at some of these news items that pertain to your industry. House prices up 48% in 4 years. We'll come back to that in just a minute because I think a lot of these headlines don't help the situation at the moment. And with you here and with Bobby here, we can scratch beneath the surface of some of these alarmist headlines. I think we should talk about it for sure, but we can get the expert help of Anna and Bobby this morning. And people are admiring T Duck's woodwork. The watch clock was made for me by Mrs. Duck's dad. Not being here at the time I showed that, Anna, that'll be quite confusing for you. But there it is, bottom left hand. Isn't that a beautiful bit of woodwork there? With like a huge watch made out of wood there, and I think that's being admired. What was that? Oh, hold on a minute. That's nice woodwork, says Antonio F. There. Further comments to refer to then. I was asking Sarah about Alcobaça. Was that their first visit? It was my and Dan's first time. Bob and Viv have been before. Very rainy, so we stayed inside. Lots of pics and video of Bob and his amazing singing voice. Was Bob singing in the in the cathedral there? A monastery, sorry, not cathedral. It is very cathedral-esque. Do you like the Alcobaça monastery, Anna?
Yes, our last team meetup was in Alcobaça, and we did go to the monastery. So it's a beautiful monument, and it kind of, every time I go to those kinds of monuments, it just makes things in perspective on the wealth distribution in medieval times, like the amount of labor and cost to build something like that. It's completely unthinkable nowadays. I mean, even the architecture has been simplified, and the arts no longer as artistic, and you no longer integrate like sculpture and painting into architecture like back then.
Yeah, yeah. I imagine the minimum wage was pretty tiny in those days as well. There was an entirely different
Slave
social order.
labor.
Yes, the entirely different social order that made those things possible there. And yes, so we want to see some video of Bob singing in the monastery there before getting thrown out by security, perhaps. You should see, talking of the T Duck's wood here, you should see the collection of wood, car, and train models he has made. How wonderful! And Michael, who's here for the Discovery Weekend. Shame you're not in this area this weekend. Anna, you could have joined us at the Discovery Weekend here in Sao Martinho de Porto. Michael's here for that. Michael and Catherine, I'm looking forward to seeing you later on. Bon dia todos de tempestuosos. Sao Martinho de Porto. Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah, do be careful because there's a storm announced, and apparently Sunday is the worst day, and Saturday is still going to be quite bad. But Sunday there are announced winds up to 100 kilometers.
Really? Okay, so maybe I won't be swimming in the. Oh yeah, coastal event as a red warning. You're absolutely right. I am on the rare occasion I check the weather. We are seeing a red warning there. Seem to be so much of those. I mean, these things end up getting normalized, don't they? These extreme weather events. There are so many of them. So yes,
it's actually not that common here. I think
not?
Maybe we have them like twice, maybe 3 times a year, if so.
Okay, so this is a high point of that kind of activity. Do you recommend we don't go in the water then, Anna?
Definitely don't go in the water, but do be careful because a lot of trees are falling and so on, and that's basically the reason I decided not to go to the center this week because there's pretty strong weather conditions.
Okay, all right. Well, that might be the final nail in the coffin of my plans to go swimming this weekend. The advice from Savvy Cat Ana. She can advise you, and her team can advise you on moving here to Portugal and finding property for you. Let's see what's going on in the chat as well. Oh, Mrs. M's had a go at the Faro caption competition, which is this picture here from the resident. And yeah, this is the Faro Bridge. It should be completed by the end of 24. There is a little bit of work to do. And she says they have taken that too far, Ro. Okay. Thank you for that, Mrs. M. A cup of coffee would be nice as well, if you don't mind. I also showed the heists of chestnuts. Are you partial to a roasted chestnut at this time of year? Do you like that tradition?
We ate pork with chestnuts, roasted pork with chestnuts, just on the holiday. So
fantastic!
And one of our family traditions for Christmas is it's a cake, but it's kind of like a roll that we make it into the shape of a log, so like the Christmas log, you know. And we made it. We make it out of chestnut paste.
It's the season for sure, isn't it? I don't think. I mean, going back to your weather commentary and advice, it's not going to be a San Martinho or a Verão de San Martinho this year, is it? I don't think we're going to have a late summer. So GNR always on the lookout for thieves of agricultural produce, mostly cork, olives, and chestnuts. Looking at the chestnut and olive heist that I featured earlier on. 34 of the Portuguese dams. This is the upside, isn't it, of all this rain? 34 of the Portuguese dams are at 80% or more of water capacity. Despite that, some dams and reservoirs in the south, mostly Algarve. How can they still be at 8%?
It's also raining a bit in the Algarve, although obviously not as much as here in the north.
Yeah.
But like he was saying, that we are not getting that late summer that we got last year, but on an Earth perspective, that actually is a pretty good thing because water reservoirs and water sheets and so on. So getting those back up. And also on the weather commentary, I definitely think that's one of the big positives of Portugal. We have pretty decent and mild weather, and these kinds of events are not very drastic, and they are not very common either. So we don't really have hurricanes and earthquakes, and we pretty much are free of natural disasters in general.
Yeah. Yeah, you're well said. Long may that continue. Touching wood. Yeah, I mean we are known for the occasional earthquake, but they're not a regular occurrence, thankfully, as you might feel them certainly in California, for example. Yeah, so I think it's for those people. You know, there are people who will complain about everything, including the Portuguese weather. And some people might say, as a criticism of Portuguese weather, well, it's always sunny and mild here and nice. There's no sort of punctuation or seasons. Well, you've got it now. For those of you who say that, you've got your rain and your wind now, and you've got a little bit of contrast. My wells are nearly full at last, and the vegetable patch is loving it, says Pete. And Michael, going back to the GNR, considering the GNR have to buy their own guns, why in a country as safe as Portugal? Why do they even need them? The British police have way worse crime, and a Bobby's truncheon seems to work pretty well. I'll let others answer that. I'm not sure. You're right about the rain, Antonio F. It can be annoying and in some cases dangerous, but vital. I wish it would rain all winter, but just between 1 in the morning and 6 in the morning. That's a good arrangement.
It would be great, right?
It'd be really excellent. The British Armed Police units went on strike not so long ago after one of them was prosecuted for a shooting. I feel so much safer in Portugal, says Pete. Thank you for that. And true story then from John. My 102-year-old mother, who, mind you, is blind and 90% deaf, was given a vision in which she saw a rather specific message written on the ceiling. This is incredible. Saying that all her children would come to visit her the first week of October. My 2 brothers and sister and I all decided to take this at face value, and we all had a wonderfully meaningful visit 3 weeks ago. This November the 1st, All Souls Day, my mum went home. Yeah, she passed away, John, as you shared with us. I'm forever grateful God chose such a clever way to arrange her final days. Quite extraordinary, because, of course, All Saints, All Souls Day is meant to be the thinnest time, isn't it, between the veils of life and death? And I wanted to ask you about this. Thank you for sharing that, Joël de Nord. Halloween, it's a Venn diagram, isn't it? The foreigners with their trick-or-treating Halloween, and the Portuguese.
I love Halloween, so I'm suspicious to ask about that, but it's definitely not a very strong Portuguese tradition, although there are things in Portugal, so like the trick-or-treating, and the center region, namely in Coimbra, that it's something called Bolinhos e Bolinhos, that it's a song that they go singing door to door, asking for bolinho, so that it was a specific kind of sweet. And so it does exist, and I would say that it comes from the remaining of the more pagan / Celtic roots in Portugal that didn't manage to get completely snuffed out by the Christian church and so on.
Well, often with these situations, the church very cleverly just kind of borrows it, doesn't it, or co-opts that tradition. And
yes, definitely. The Christian church was particularly clever doing that, and most of the Christian holidays actually come from pagan holidays.
Yeah, right. And that's true of the All Saints as well, isn't it? All Souls, because the Pão de Deus is one of those bolos or bolinhos, isn't it, that is given to the kids and to the poor at this time of year on the 1st of November. So you're a big. What is it you like about Halloween?
Oh, I actually like more of the pagan side of things. I just find it extremely interesting, the whole lore and the whole mythology around it. You know, the cleaning of the veil and people getting masks so they are not taken by demons. So demons think they are one of them and so on. I think that's pretty cool.
Sounds like you had an interesting All Saints Day on the 1st of November, a public holiday here. A lot of people just get glad for the rest, aren't they, to have a day off? But I guess for others there is a significance, whether they are observing it from a pagan point of view.
The more traditional thing here in Portugal is actually to go and visit the cemeteries and the ones that have passed in the family. And that was actually the reason we were going to Caldas, because my great-grandmother and great-grandfather are buried there. And my mother wanted to go to the grave. But we are postponing that due to the storm.
And without wanting to be too sort of morbid or nosy about this, you know, us foreigners do see this happening. I mean, many Sundays families are observing the loved ones who've passed and going to the cemetery. But there's a special significance there on the 1st of November, and of course the people selling flowers and so on are outside the cemeteries. Is that basically what happens? People will go and spend time in the cemetery.
Yeah, it's basically an honoring the dead tradition and remembering the past family members. So
Yeah.
it's common that they just go and clean the graves and offer some flowers and so on. So yes, that's a pretty strong traditional for the 1st of November, so the All Souls Day.
Okay. And if I know the Portuguese, there will be some food and drink involved. So once you've been to the cemetery, do you go and have a favorite meal of the dearly departed?
Well, that's actually not a big thing, but I think most people don't mind that at all.
I'm sure. I'm sure. By point of order, Chair, for Michael Whitby, no policeman in Portugal buys his own service gun. She can buy one for private use, but not for service. And they have to buy their own uniform. However, they receive a small monthly allowance for that. Yeah, notoriously poorly paid, I think, the GNR. And thank you for
I
clearing
think
that up,
that's the
Michael.
general public service problem, but yeah.
Yes, right. I was listening to a podcast with obvious wrong information. The question of why they need a gun anyway still stands. I know it's a carryover from pre-Republic. It's in the name, isn't it? They are the National Guard of the Republic. They're not the guardians of the people necessarily. They're the guardians of the Republic, which puts it in a different way. I love newspaper reports on how many trees are down and someone being brushed by a car here compared to murders and stabbings back home in the smoke. Absolutely. It's all relative, isn't it? And reassuring to somebody like Pete, who's from a much more volatile environment. Laura P, good morning to you. I had a wonderful bacalhau con castanhas. So the cod with chestnuts, one of the many thousands of ways of cooking bacalhau. This time with chestnuts in Braga and a lot of sweet onions. Really good. Stop it, Laura P. That sounds lovely and is making me feel hungry. 2 years ago, we walked the beaches here in 20-degree plus weather, shorts and t-shirts. As in 2 years ago in November. Is that right, Michael? We can get that late summer, the Verão de Sao Martinho. The guns used by police forces are 9mm. 9mm. Says Antonio F, are forbidden for civilians except if they are sport shooters. You learn something every day here on the Good Morning Portugal show. Bobby O'Reilly will be with us and teaching us even more in just a moment about his processes.
That actually reminds me of a funny story. The only funny story I had with police. But my
have you got lots of stories, but only one of them is funny?
My father's farm is, in a village, a very traditional village.
Right.
And it was Halloween, and I did a Halloween party at the house. So everyone came in costumes, and most of my friends, they really like costumes and, dressing in black and so on and so forth. So someone decided to call the police, thinking that we were invading the property and stealing and so on. So we were just cooking lunch, having our bolognese, and we start seeing policemen coming in with like chachicotes with the gun and so on. And I'm just
they had their guns. They had their guns drawn.
Yeah,
Really?
and I'm just looking at it like, what the hell?
Or like
and then I just open the door, and they come in and say, "Hello, good afternoon. What is going on here?" When I'm like, "Well, we're having lunch."
Wow.
And he's like, is any of you owner of this house? Well, yes, I'm the daughter of the owner of this house.
Yeah.
And they were like, I don't remember how the conversation goes, but he pretty much just face palmed and they apologized and went back their way. But
I'm glad it ended so safely. I mean, you could have thought they were joining your party dressed up as police officers, and you could have started, maybe thinking they were stripograms or anything could have happened dressed up as police officers. That's
it was real guns. It was easy to tell, but that's one of the big differences.
From the holes in the wall?
Right. The America and Portugal, none of us was really scared. We were just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And yes, we weren't really, none of us even considered being shot. People, the policemen here are not very trigger happy, and there is very big consequences for accidental shooting and so on. It's actually even harder for them to shoot, even in valid situations, than it should be.
So perhaps it's used as a deterrent. To answer Michael's earlier question, it's more of a deterrent and a symbol, isn't it, of force an authority. And those young Portuguese in the story Anna just told were not especially frightened. But a good bit of policing by the sound of it. People dressed in black in a property. A neighbour reports it. The police deal with it, and all well and good. Did they join you for dinner or not?
No, they just went back, but it was a very curious development.
Well, did you hear about that story of the guy in Lisbon who he thought he was ordering pomegranate juice, and using a language app and not having a great grasp of Portuguese, people thought he was talking about a grenade. They called like pomegranate, granada, grenade. And then next thing he knew, he was wrestled to the floor by armed police officers, thinking that this had escalated. And all this was him trying to order a pomegranate juice, and he found himself locked up in quite a state of shock, I think.
But I think that's definitely a language thing, because he wasn't able to explain what's going on. He was probably scared that the police came over. Yeah. And I think reaction is an important thing. I think police also, in that case, didn't understood pretty quickly that we weren't invading anything, because we were pretty relaxed and weren't, frightened and so on. So, but I can understand that, especially a foreigner in that situation probably would be frightened, especially if you come from a background like America.
Well, I think he was an Azerbaijani, and if he just kept shouting out "grenade," presumably that didn't help. Thinking he was ordering a pomegranate juice and couldn't understand why a delicious juice wasn't being produced and why suddenly he was surrounded by a ring of armed GNR officers. Right, it's 9:32. Let's get Bobby O'Reilly on the screen with us as well this morning. Are you going to stick around and chat with us, Anna?
Sure.
Excellent. We've got a barefoot broadcast at 10 o'clock with Mrs. M. And here he is, Mr. Bobby O'Reilly. Hello, mate. How are you?
Good. Yourself?
Very well. Yeah, looking forward to hanging out with you this weekend. Here we are on the screen, Englishman, Irishman, and Portuguese woman. We will be having Englishman, Irishman, and Portuguese man tomorrow afternoon, 3 o'clock at the Storytellers. All welcome to come and be extras in that production as we talk to Marco Aresh of the Storytellers Palace. Looking forward to it, Bobby?
Absolutely. I had a checking out the place yesterday. Looks really cool. So, although I'm not looking forward to the weather forecast, as Anna was saying earlier on, it sounds a bit blustery up there, no?
I hope it will come across as dramatic and moody. And maybe we can get some film of us, if not swimming, then running along the beach for us.
Because you should extend the Halloween theme.
We could do, couldn't we? I mean, yeah. If we strip down to our trunks, that will certainly terrify people in a Halloweeny kind of way. That should do it. Yeah. But you've got a signature thing now, which you've been doing. I think I'll play a little clip from the Aroera filming. But you like to do a little dance on the beach holding a cocktail, don't you?
Yeah, when I'm drunk, yeah.
Right, okay. So hopefully did we manage to capture that for Tamar? I don't think we did it, did we?
No, we didn't. I had to run away.
Yes.
I was beaten by New Zealand the same weekend, so...
Well, we haven't seen you since then, have we? I don't think we've talked about it on screen since then. Do you think South Africa deserved to take the title this year?
Absolutely, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
They were the best team of the tournament, I think.
Yeah.
Even though I know Ireland had beaten them in the group stage, but we could have easily lost that game as well as won it. So, but no, we could say the same. But typically in rugby, the best team always wins at the end of it.
Yeah.
Really. So yeah.
Okay. So well done.
Deserve it. And how do you say? I was happy to see them in it again. Like it meant so much to like it does to every nation. But South Africa, given its history and its unification, etc., and I think it means so much to South African people. So for that reason, I was delighted that South Africa had won it.
And I'm sure your South African neighbour, who I met when we were in your neighbourhood, was delighted, or remains delighted by that as well. Anna, from your Portuguese perspective, obviously Bobby's a big rugby fan. Quite a few of the foreigners, immigrants, expats, are rugby fans. They bring that passion with them. It was a good moment for Portuguese rugby. Did that get through to you and Portuguese friends and family?
I confess it completely passed me, but I'm not someone that actively looks for sport news. But I knew that some time ago, some year, like a few years ago. There was a huge celebration when the Portuguese hockey team won, rugby team. And that one definitely spread, but no, this time it didn't reach me.
Well, the expression that was being used, I think, Bobby, was they gave a very good account of themselves in this tournament, didn't they? They did really
By
well.
far, no, they surpassed themselves. Actually, of all the commentary that you see on all the different chats about the rugby and so on, and it's across the world, the main team, I think, Fiji and also then Portugal. I think everyone said Portugal was the one that surprised the most.
Yeah.
And it started a big conversation about the tier 1, tier 2 type system that they have to bring on the teams that are, let's say, less don't get as many top games as possible. So hopefully that conversation continues and Portugal gets to play a lot of the what we'd say tier 1 teams now, because they really surpassed themselves. We had a conversation prior to the World Cup, and we were saying if they get a try, that'd be an amazing thing.
Yeah.
But beat Fiji, you know what I mean?
Yeah, superb.
It was just unbelievable. I was actually in the airport for the homecoming, and the Portuguese team coming home, and it was just bananas. And like I said to you, everyone there knew each other. So it's a family. Here, the rugby world is a family. It's a big family. Everyone was shaking hands, everyone was hugging, and it wasn't like the soccer where they were all just sort of getting all caught up emotionally because they're all wearing the same jersey. They actually knew each other, and it was very, very endearing to see it. And it will definitely grow because it's in their, how would you say, it's in their bones, and you can see the passion that they have for it. And I think it's going to grow. Rugby in Ireland years and years ago, I would say in the 80s, when Ireland started won their first Triple Crown that I remember, no one really watched rugby up to then, because we all watched Irish football and then, of course, English soccer, if you like. But then the rugby grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. And now I think actually outside the Irish traditional games, I think it surpasses the soccer, the football, the international football, as the number 1 sport to watch, as international. Yeah. I think the same. It'll grow here.
It seems like
I actually think it's a shame that basically no sports other than football get much media attention here in Portugal. It's pretty much all football, and everything just gets under the bridge. And it actually gets very little investment, and that's definitely something I think it should change. There should be more media and more attention to other sports than football.
Yeah, well said. I mean, I watched the one of the Portuguese games at Caldas Rainhas rugby ground. It's an amazing ground. I think it's an athletics track as well, a multi-purpose. And that's often what happens here in Portugal, isn't it? A club, a football club or a rugby club will have other sports based from the same ground. But I think they weren't complaining about it, but they were saying we're not very well funded publicly, and they have to do a lot of their own.
They are very little funded, and most players cannot do that professionally. They need to have side jobs and so on.
Yes, yeah, interesting. And some of the rugby squad, they weren't all professionals, were they, by any means?
No, but I think after that World Cup, they'll all have new homes to go to.
Yes,
yeah, that's
interesting, isn't it? For the rugby squad, their lives will have been changed forever, won't they?
And their families. And I think actually rugby in Portugal has been changed irreversibly for the good from that World Cup. And I look forward to the next one. And I think people will be watching to see what happens to them. They're the Japan of this World Cup. Japan in the last World Cup got into the semi-final by beating Ireland in the quarter-final of the last World Cup. So they were the big surprise. Now Japan fell back. But so everyone's going to be watching to see where did they go from here.
Yeah, very good.
It's very hard to stay on the top all the time, as most of the teams find out. Because your squad is constantly turning over, and it's to keep that consistency in that team. Everyone's watching Portugal for the next World Cup and see how they progress over the next couple of years. But hopefully they'll build on it.
And is it the same with the Football World Cup? Is it in 4 years' time? Is that how it works? It's on that cycle, is it? Okay, all right. Well, it's going to be very exciting going into that next tournament, that next global tournament. Fantastic. I'm going to play the video from our last, well, not our last filming, because that was in Tamar. We were in Aroeira, or near Aroeira, on the Costa de Caparica. Fonte Telha. where much of this was filmed. I'll just show a minute of this, and this is what we're looking forward to this weekend. Here in Sao Martinho de Porto. We'll hope to catch Bobby twirling with a cocktail on the beach. It'll be very different weather. And then we'll get into the serious discussion of is residency through investment alive and well in Portugal. But for a moment, let's just enjoy this moment again, Bobby. Was so different, wasn't it? Different times, certainly featuring me and Bobby and stars here in Portugal, people who share our love of this country and its culture, talking to us about it tomorrow. Marco, what an incredible history he has as a filmmaker, director, worked with some of the biggest firms here in Portugal and around the world, and now the owner of the Storytellers Palace, another hotel in Sintra as well. And I think he's got other plans up north as well. So it's going to be very interesting talking to him. And like you, Bobby, he grew up in hospitality. He was a baby in kitchens, he said, and it's just in his blood, cooking, right? So he's going to be cooking for us tomorrow as well.
Fantastic. I was watching his interview with you the other day, and I was like, wow, this guy's so interesting. He's got such a sort of a story to tell that got him to where he is. So I think it's going to be a very good conversation that we'll be having with him tomorrow.
Yeah,
it'll be great.
Our own director, a filmmaker, documentary man is Andy Klein. That video made me smile, warm and fuzzies. I got the warm and fuzzies from that as well. And the lovely sunset on Fontatelia Beach there. So we'll have more of that this weekend. Portugal, says Antonio F, is very good in roller rink hockey. Look at that. Another underestimated sport then, or underrepresented, having won many world championships. We are also good in canoeing, won medals in other sports like judo. Lots of investment in the last decades. Good to hear that. Thank you, Antonio F. So is residency through investment alive and well? If I may, before you answer that question, Bobby, and I'm sure you'll have something to say on that as well, Anna, there are a few stories in the in the media at the moment. And I was thinking to myself, what is the soundbite about these soundbites? And I would say headlines that don't help. Right, house prices up 48% in 4 years. This is from the Portugal News. I guess in some ways you could see that as a good thing, especially for those people who are selling those houses. But are these things a little bit misleading, Bobby? What do you make of headlines of this?
If you actually get the statistics off of the government websites, basically they release them, or even if you look at the JLL residential, they have these reports that they release quarterly and so on and so forth. They give the price per square meter per average across different zones and so on and so forth. And you can pick numbers from any point in time in any particular place to create any narrative anytime you want.
Yes,
so like someone said to me one day, 75% of all statistics are made up on the spot. So it's a bit like that. To be honest with you. So the thing is that house prices are rising and falling. They're doing both. It depends on what it is and where it is. As I said to you already, on the lower end of the market, because of the mortgage interest rates, etc., the apartments in the cheaper areas are actually falling. People are having to sell because they can't afford their mortgages, and they're selling them basically more than what they paid from the mortgage, but cheaper than what their value would have been, say, before they had stopped certain programs and certain things that were going on. But the real issue here, right across the board, is supply over demand. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. the corrections that they're trying to do with inflation and basically hammering the lower man with regards to interest rates, because they're the ones that's going to suffer. The guy who's at the top of the end of the market, if it goes up 1 or 2 points, whatever, he mightn't like it, but it's not going to hurt him. Where it really hurts people is when they get their mortgage, they get a mortgage that they can basically, how much can I get? And they get the amount they can get based on the lowest possible denominator with regarding what I'm going to have to pay. And then they're given a choice whether to go variable rate or fixed rate. Variable rate is typically cheaper over a fixed rate. So people will go for the cheaper and take the chance. Going to go for a fixed rate. And then, of course, if the interest rates change, their mortgage can practically double over a very short period of time, which has happened. So, as I said to you on the last time we were talking, and we look at even on the South Bank here at the moment, in the, say, high densely populated area where you had large apartment blocks, people are selling their homes for 90,000 to 100,000 euros, talking about 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. If you go back 6 months ago, 8 months ago, it wouldn't have been that many for sale, but now there's a lot for sale. But what's even more, I suppose, worrying for them is that they're being sold very, very fast, because people know that prices will continue to increase on all levels of the market, especially in the high density populated areas, because there is just no supply. And if there's no one buying, if they're selling to rent, then there's somebody buying to be the landlord to rent to them. And basically it's going to come back to a more of a rent controlled, or let's say landlord will keep putting up the rents as they have happened. Rents have gone up, I think, dramatically more so than even house prices have over the last couple of years, because of, again, supply and demand. And it all comes back to me from the timing that there's not enough planning. There's not enough planning advisors. There's not enough planning coming out of the municipalities with regards to the type of housing that people should be building, guidance on the volumes and sizes and so on. So I think the big discussion needs to happen around the need and need going forward over the next 10, 15, 20 years, because this is going to continue for the next 10, 15, 20 years if they don't fix it.
Yeah. Thank you, Bobby, for your analysis on that. Another headline, record-breaking rent prices in Southern Europe. From what you're saying, that would appear to be true. That's where the impact is felt. This is where you help people, of course, Anna. And that's, I mean, we're seeing it's a European phenomenon, isn't it? Well, it's a global phenomenon, the way it works, supply and demand. According to the most recent data from Idealista, the highest house rents were observed in Milan, Lisbon, and Barcelona. Looks like Portugal, certainly in Lisbon, is in good company there in a sense, with these great cities around the world, but not great for if you want to rent. What do you have to say about what Bobby's just said there, Anna?
I agree with Bobby in the rent problem especially is getting worse, and this slight break in the market, which is not a big break or a long-term break like he was saying, it's probably going to make the problem worse when it comes to rents, because it's going to become a lot more. The big companies and the people that have the money to buy them will put them on the market at much higher prices when it comes to rent and so on. Mm-hmm. So the affordable housing won't really be available. Of course, some people will be able to buy, but it's probably not going to be a majority, given the current loan scenario. I do not agree with the comment on the statistics and so on. I think they do have accurate data, and the prices have definitely been increasing dramatically. And the 50% increase over 4 years, it's not surprising, and I think it's probably pretty accurate.
I think your point, Bobby, was how these things are spun, right? You're not necessarily doubting the statistics in themselves. It's just how they're cherry picked to create a certain sort of picture.
Exactly. I agree that house prices have gone up and continue to go up. But there's a couple of reasons why they've gone up. And it's not just because, and this is where the narrative comes in, the foreigners are coming in and buying up all the houses. That's not the truth. The reason they've gone up is, if you look, you have to go back prior COVID, and you have to look at, number one, the tax take that the government takes from every house sold. And I'm talking about the EVA. So if you look at, no matter what business you have, whether you're making furniture or when you're building your furniture, everything you buy, materials you buy, the EVA is write-offable. In other words, it's a you pay EVA and you buy something, you pay EVA on that, and then you do your EVA returns. It's bound to basically what you paid versus what you owe. As a construction company and in construction, every material you buy and even the EVA that you pay, the sales, etc., none of it is write-offable. It's all cost. So that basically means that the government has put 23% higher the price of every property, new property built, automatically, because it's a cost.
Yeah.
And if you look at, then you pay 6% on your IMT tax. And if you look at the taxes that the actual people who are working on them are paying and so on and so forth, like the taxes that are taken off a new sale, I think we got calculated up, it's nearly like something like 41% is what the cost, there is between the material cost and the tax cost and so on. So it's about 41% of the cost of a building a new property. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it is the cost of materials have gone up an awful lot as well in the last couple of years. And land prices have gone up extensively. Now, land prices, when you're buying land now, you have to say, okay, it's going to take me 3 to 4 years to get planning on these properties, unless it already has planning. And the market can change vigorously over that period of time. And we even heard stories, so for example, in Granada, where, down in Comporta, Malige, where people have bought land with PIP and then told by Grandal that, sorry, no, we're not allowed you to build anything there anymore. This after they spent 10 or 15 or 20 million on land to build. Right. Just that, no, they've decided, no, we're not going to build. So the thing is, the control over what and where they can build for sure should happen. But the speed and how it comes out needs to change dramatically. You have a huge shortfall of properties in high density populated areas, and that's why the prices are where they're at. And that's the long and short of it, really. You can look at the prices of the construction, and it's the same everywhere. Prices of land, I think people started to get sort of a little bit crazy. To see that there are people buying land, and all of a sudden they double the price and triple the price and so on, and people are paying it as well for land. So that all contributes to house prices rising. So I'm not saying house prices are not going up; they're definitely going up. But the reason for it is nothing to do with the volume of foreigners that come into the country. The reason to do it is just not enough planning coming out to fulfill the need that's required. There's no stimulus for people to build a type of property or a type of house or a type of standard. There's no stimulus for people to actually buy a house of a type of a standard throughout the country, such as tax credits, etc., and so on. Now, they have brought out some stimulus with regards to if you have 2 properties, if you sell one now, as it was a second property, you can use the profit that you made to pay off your mortgage on your initial house, and you don't get taxed.
Yeah,
that's very weak, to be honest with you. It's a very weak reason. It's trying to tell me to sell the property that I have that I'm renting out. Rents are going up, so I can pay off my mortgage and not pay a tax on it. But then I've got low, excess income. What to do with it? I invest in something else. So I think that they have to get that part right first. But house prices are going to continue, and rents are going to continue going up here. Sure.
That's
But
the
I
reality.
definitely agree with you when it comes to construction, that there is a lack of support on construction and probably an overtax. On the high density areas, you also have the ARU areas, so the urban rehabilitation areas that do have some relevant tax incentives. One of them being to reduce the VAT from 2026, which is nice. But it's not enough. I agree with you. And it's very, very, very hard to be a developer in Portugal. Things are very slow. It's a pain to deal with townhouses. Like you say, they change their mind, like they change their underwear, and we have absolutely no control and no say in it. and it's just not an attractive environment to invest in, and that should change, because that's going to make the problem a whole lot
Actually,
worse.
it's
And,
what makes it attractive to invest in. It's why
and
it's attractive to invest in, because of the supply versus the demand.
it
So
is,
from
but
our
all
point
the
of view,
rest is very bad.
we're going to continue to buy land and buy properties and so on and so forth, because we know that they're not going to fix it anytime soon, and that there's always going to be a demand on property, and there's always going to be a demand, whether it be rental or whether it be a demand on people looking to buy, to live in, or move out of Lisbon into sort of more commutable areas, etc. So yeah, it's very attractive to invest in
Yeah,
Portugal.
there's demand, and it can be definitely a very good and profitable investment, but it's going to be a very slow and a very bureaucratic investment, and that definitely puts off a lot of people. And it's something that when you invest that kind of thing, you can definitely have great profits, but you should be ready for it to take a very long time for you to get those profits.
All right, but I need to ask both of you what you're doing specifically for your clients, because we're going to answer this question. Is residency through investment alive and well in Portugal? It would appear to be so from Mr. O'Reilly. What do you do with all that we've talked about this morning? And thank you, T-Duck, for your comment. Great discussion today. And from Laura P, what do you say of lots and lots of Portuguese blaming us foreigners, ruining the housing market? No one talks about the Portuguese owner that are most double or triple the price only to foreigners. And the result of that is making me feel unwanted in a sense. That's horrible when that's happening, when we've got the foreigners being blamed unfairly, unnecessarily. Bobby, you don't pay taxes on profits on a house sale. If you invest all that amount in buying another property in the next 18 months, that's a good incentive, isn't it?
That's your home. Has to
home.
be your home, not a property. It has to be
Not
your
for
home.
investment purposes.
Not for
All right.
investment.
Both
You're
of you.
caught regardless, unless you're now selling. If you have two properties, one is let's say an investment property. If you sell it and the capital gains that you would normally pay in it, and you use that to pay off an existing credit that you have on your own home, your first home, you don't pay tax on it. But if you're selling your own home to move it into another home, then you don't pay. And again, it depends on the price of the property as well. There's a little bit of calculations required in all of them. So
But it's
not
better for the individual rather than the developer.
Yeah,
but
it's for reinvestment in habitational property, and it's only for your own habitation, so in your own housing.
Okay, Anna. So what are you doing? Given all that we've talked about, what are you going to do for your clients at Savvy Cat Realty? I'll ask you the same question in just a moment, Bobby.
First of all, I would just like to have a comment on, I think it was Laura's comment.
Yep.
And I think this is very much a government, something that the government is spewing, so to say. So the whole the foreigners are the problem has been the government narrative, and I think it's a very bad narrative and a very prejudicial narrative for Portugal even, because that's a very small part of the problem, and the foreigners in general have been the ones investing the most in Portugal. And basically what they have been doing is that they are pushing away the ones that are investing and supporting the economy. And overall, if this keeps happening, the ones who will be paying will be the Portuguese people, because that money has to be coming from somewhere. So overall, I think this is a terrible narrative, and it's just a political scheme to try and stay with power with the whole I'm trying to defend the people narrative. That's pretty much what this government is doing. And they're not. They're not. They are making it worse on the long term. And I'm very worried about that. Overall, for the clients, it's like Bobby was saying. I think that Portugal can definitely still be a very attractive when it comes to investment and development, because there is a lack of housing and there is more demand than supply, and that's probably not going to change anytime soon. But if you want to invest in Portugal, do keep in mind that things are going to be slow. So like Bobby was saying, just to get licensed, it's going to be taking between 1.5 to 4 years, and then the development and so on. So it takes a while to get your investment back, but you can definitely have a good return on it. but be ready for it to be slow.
Thank you for that, Anna. I need to go because Mrs. M here is for the Barefoot broadcast, but we need to ask you that question as well, Bobby. What are you doing for your clients to Mrs. M? There she is. Residency through investment. Is it alive and well in Portugal, Bobby, despite all of these headlines? I've been criticizing the sound bites, and now I'm asking you for one.
Yeah, no, to be honest with you, for me, it's an advantage. Because, as I said, most of my people are investors. Most of my clients are investors and always have been investors. And I would say the majority of the people who I deal with don't particularly want to move and live in Portugal because they're from different parts of the world. Some do, and because they see the benefits, and maybe as a plan B, maybe they might do later on. But the initial reason that people are investing with me is for a residency by investment. And then what I do is investments. It's investments. The fact that they can get a residency beside that is sort of a bonus and a benefit to them. So for me, the fact that the houses still continue to grow and prices are still to grow, when I'm selling properties to investors off plan, they know by the time that it's finished, it's typically gone up 30% over that period of time. And if they're putting in 30% as their initial booking deposit, they've doubled their equity in a 3-year period. So, and at the same time, they get a residence. So for me, it's a big advantage, the fact that the government, in two ways. One, it's a disadvantage because I'm a developer, but in the second way, it's a big advantage because I can show investors how they can make money and at the same time get the residency. Simple.
Superb. Excellent stuff. You thought you'd escape the dad jokes. No way. I'm going to do those very quickly now. And also just tell you that a Magusto festival event is happening on the 4th tomorrow. Thank you, Bairandi, for that. Excellent stuff. More on the Gumper map, which you can find via our website. Let's just move that out of the way and share the dad jokes with you as we wish you a bon fin semana. This might be you this weekend, Bobby, and me. I pointed to 2 old drunks sitting across the bar and told my wife, that's us in 10 years. She said, that's a mirror, you idiot. They said, that might be us in the Gatsby tomorrow night. They said not to try this at home, so I'm coming over to your house. Very good. And if you're not using social media to spout your uninformed opinion, then you're totally missing the point of the internet. Yes, well said. What else is it for? Thank you, Anna, for being here today. Savvy Cat Ana at savvycatrealty.com. And from your home group, Bobby O'Reilly. See you this weekend. We're going to have some fun in Sao Martinho de Porto. Bon fin de semana, everybody. Ciao, ciao. Good there. See you, everybody. Bye for now.